South Africa, everybody, to episode 15 of Velospitty Speed Talk. I'm Tina Snell. Our episode is a little bit off the beaten track today or this evening, if you will pardon the pun, because we are talking about racing from a different kind of angle this evening. Our episode is entitled Antidepressant, and the reason for that will soon become clear. And with that, we welcome our guest, Sbusiso Manqa. Sbusiso, good evening. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, and how are you, Dan?
Well, everything is going well. Hi, it's Sbusiso. I prefaced the show by saying it's a little bit off the beaten track because we're not talking directly about racing, but something that tangentially affects racing, which is mental health. Now, just to tell our viewers, Sbusiso, I heard you first on a radio broadcast. You are a man of quite some achievement. You are a young man, but you are already an accomplished entrepreneur, a poet, a film producer, and then also an award-winning author. So take us a bit through some of the history of what brought you here.
It was more of being curious more than anything, you know. That's I think that's the gist of it, being curious, because when you are curious, you start to experiment on things, you know. You said we're gonna be off a bit, but I think I went deep into the racing world when you told me about the interview, and I will try to keep it as much as possible into the racing world and make examples of the racing world when it comes to mental health, you know, because a lot of youngsters go into the racing world purely because of two things. It's either they were born into a racing family or the curiosity drove them into the racing family.
Right. And you're right. It is a family indeed. It is a family. Now, Sbusiso, your what brought you to the interview is that you won the Mzansi Youth Award for one of your books. Tell us a little bit about that, and that will segue us into the discussion this evening.
I'm an author, and one of the books that made me the book that made me win the award really is a book titled "I Think I'm Depressed." It was based on me being young, and with me being young, I have been exposed to a lot of things. Like I said, I keep on bouncing back to the races. I have been exposed to a lot of the adult world at youth, and there's racers who were exposed to the adult world. Can you hear me now? Am I still there?
Yeah, go ahead. I just put you solo on the screen. It's all fine. Go ahead.
A lot of them were exposed to the world of racing at a very young age, and the world of racing is considered as a world of adults in a typical world of old. So with me writing the book, I was being exposed to the film industry. I'm a filmmaker by profession. And it came with its own pressures, and the pressures took a mental toll on me. Like you can imagine, when you tell a young racer that you can ride, it's good, they become happy that they can ride a bike, they can drive a bike, they can go over the cliffs on a bike. But once you start telling them that you are representing your country, can you imagine the amount of pressure that comes on them?
Yes, exactly. And you know, we will get to the element of pressure, because there's a lot weighing down on a racer. You know, they start in it for fun, and as the results come, of course, the level goes higher and higher and higher. But even so, even when it's just at the fun level, we've seen parents exert tremendous pressure on the young riders. And I think you can comment on what pressure does to you in terms of mental health and possibly sometimes demotivation.
Exactly. This is what happened with me. I come from a very small community. It's not rural, neither is it urban. It's a very semi-rural community. So I was just somebody who was writing scripts and trying to shoot short films until it was bought on TV. And then everything changed. You start to get pressures from the community that now you are representing us. You understand? The family starts saying, you're putting the family name up there. And when you start indulging in your project, you find yourself in a position where there's all of these pressures that you had not initially planned for, and that scares you. That scares you, and you have become afraid of failure, and you become scared and you panic, and you don't get into your zone, whereas you know yourself that this is me as a writer, this is me as a filmmaker, I'm confident in what I'm doing. In the case of our viewers, most of them will be, this is me as a writer. I know I'm good. I've beaten all of my friends. I've beaten all of the people that I train with. I've beaten all of the people back home who were my competition. And that was fun. And I get onto a national level now, and they say I'm like representing my country. I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun riding my bike.
Yes. Yeah, I understand. That's when the element of fun becomes an element of must do, must achieve, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And we there are a lot of things bearing down that can lead to because in terms of racing, it's a very, very, very physically demanding sport. For instance, motocross, it's it may not appear so, but it's a very physically demanding sport. So the riders have to be physically fit, and they have very strict training regimes. But more and more, they realize that mental preparedness is also a very important part of the racing armory.
Tinas, you look at, I'm not a racer, but I looked at the technicality of it. When you go off a cliff and how you end, there's a possibility of your bike not landing in a perfect way to push on for you to have the momentum of the little hill, so that your speed accelerates for you to pass your opponents. The previous race you were in, you get in there and you land wrongly in an incorrect manner. It slows you down, or you either fall down or you either bump into an opponent, and that creates a mental trauma in your mind. So you can imagine that it was a fun race. The next race is a fun race, you win. And then there comes a race where it's about national pride. And you remember the mistakes you've done in the past. What if I land incorrectly? What if I turn and bump into somebody? All of those memories start rushing. And that is where we need to have mental discipline as human beings, and say, you know what? It's not always about my surroundings. Most of it is about me. The problem is in here, in my mind, because one
if you can take us a little bit to your history, you wrote an award-winning book called I Think I May Be Depressed. You told us briefly how that came about. Can you tell us a little bit more about the book? Because I think it was initially a free ebook, and then it got wildly popular, correct?
It was a free book, Tinas, and what had happened was I was hospitalized for depression. I didn't know I was depressed because I had so much pressure on my shoulders. You can imagine, there I was, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, directing a film, and there's this huge cast. There's people who are dependent on my instructions, actors, not just actors, crew members. There are people who are drivers depending on my instruction. It was a bit too much for me, but I handled the pressure. But the pressure came later on, whereas I couldn't sleep. I slept for like 2-3 hours a night, and I started to have memory loss. And then I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Dude, you have mental exhaustion and chronic depression. You need to go to an institute and be rested and be drugged so you can rest, so we can start helping you recover." That is when I was in there, I took a decision that I'm gonna write a book on depression and make it a free ebook. So because I think that this is something that we need to learn from. And then I didn't know the book will reach such lengths, whereas after people, it was downloaded in over 15 countries. And I didn't know that this was going to be the case. For me, it was like my South African counterparts. This is what I want them to read. And then you start hitting 500 downloads in India, in the USA, in Malaysia, in the Philippines. I'm like, this is much more powerful than I thought. And then I entered it in an award ceremony, and then it gave me the award of best author. I was like, this is something that we really need to start conversing about, more especially my generation, the younger generation, because what happened is that our parents, which is you, Tinus, you had life difficult. And with you having life difficult, what you tried to do was make it much more easier for us. So with you making it easier for us, we have less resistance when it comes to us dealing with problems. So little problems, so us not having friends, like us not being appreciated on social media, like us failing something like a race, a friendly race, we become depressed. So those pressures are the ones that we need to start dealing with as my generation.
Right. And you mentioned quite rightly social media, because social media can bring with it an immense amount of pressure, because, you have this sometimes self-imposed expectations on yourself and also what others have on you. And if you don't achieve, and bullying starts catching fire very, very quickly on social media, and derogatory comments and everything. So this just adds, I think, to the mental pressure. Is that not right?
And that's so true, Tinus. And bullying starts off with sarcastic remarks like, it's not mean, but it gets to you. Somebody would tell you, for instance, if you are a rider, it will tell you that when you are on the cliff, on the third or second hill, you looked like a turkey, and actually that's where things went wrong for you. They say it as a joke, but it's not a joke. And
because people can be very critical, of course. Yes,
very critical, and then when it goes further, bullying gets much more serious, especially if you've won once or twice, because you need to understand something, that people hate winners more than losers.
This is true. This is true. People sometimes hate the success of others. This is true. And you live in South Africa, but there's an Afrikaans saying that encapsulates that very thought. That's true. And some of our viewers are from Holland, and there's also a Dutch saying that encapsulates that people would rather drag you down than push you up. Very often,
because one thing we need to always remember is that people want to see you do good, but not better than them.
right. So everybody must. Yes.
If you start doing better than them, what they look at is your faults. And they will,
Right.
if your fault on a scale of 1 to 10 is 1, they'll make sure it sounds like a 5 or a 6, so that you start panicking as well. Because you need to
Right.
understand, you being in a not so good state puts them in the limelight. You need to understand, and that these
Yes.
people are not people you say that are your enemies. It's people that you call friends. That's why they get to you. It's people who
I
say,
understand.
I'm there for you. It's somebody in the racing world, it's somebody who you've practiced with for 3 years. And they see that you have the potential of being a champion, a world champion.
Mhm.
And they don't understand that they've trained with you for 3 years. And why is it that you are becoming a world champion and not them? So your tiny mistakes, they will highlight them and say, you didn't turn quite correctly there. You didn't land
Yeah.
correctly. Your takeoff was off.
Yes. Yes.
And it gets to you, you like, this person knows me. And you think of them as a friend. And you forget that on the track, you are not just friends, but you are also opponents.
That's correct. That's correct. Now, mental health in latter day years, it has become a much talked about subject. And there was a very, very well received little video clip with a metaphor which compared depression, or actually it was named the black dog of depression. I don't know if you ever saw that video.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it at all.
Okay, well, I've loaded the video, so let's have a look at it, and we can see how you can relate to it. So just have a look at the few minutes of this video.
Okay.
I had a black dog. His name was Depression. Whenever the black dog made an appearance, I felt empty and life just seemed to slow down. He could surprise me with a visit for no reason or occasion. The black dog made me look and feel older than my years. When the rest of the world seemed to be enjoying life, I could only see it through the black dog. Activities that usually brought me pleasure suddenly ceased to. He liked to ruin my appetite. He chewed up my memory and my ability to concentrate. Doing anything or going anywhere with the black dog required superhuman strength. At social occasions, he'd sniff out what confidence I had and chase it away. My biggest fear was being found out. I worried that people would judge me. Because of the shame and stigma of the black dog, I was constantly worried that I'd be found out. So I invested vast amounts of energy into covering him up. Keeping up an emotional lie is exhausting. Black dog could make me think and say negative things. He could make me irritable and difficult to be around. He would take my love and bury my intimacy. He loved nothing more than to wake me up with highly repetitive and negative thinking. He also liked to remind me how exhausted I was going to be the next day. Having a black dog in your life isn't so much about feeling a bit down, sad or blue. At its worst, it's about being devoid of feeling altogether. As I got older, the black dog got bigger and he started hanging around all the time. I'd chase him off with whatever I thought might send him running. But more often than not, he'd come out on top. Going down became easier than getting up again. So I became rather good at self-medication, which never really helped. Eventually, I felt totally isolated from everything and everyone. The black dog had finally succeeded in hijacking my life. When you lose all joy in life, you can begin to question what the point of it is. Thankfully, this was the time that I sought professional help. This was my first step towards recovery and a major turning point in my life. I learned that it doesn't matter who you are, the black dog affects millions and millions of people. It is an equal opportunity mongrel. I also learned that there was no silver bullet or magic pill. Medication can help some, and others might need a different approach altogether. I also learned that being emotionally genuine and authentic to those who are close to you can be an absolute game changer. Most importantly, I learnt not to be afraid of the black dog, and I taught him a few new tricks of my own. The more tired and stressed you are, the louder he barks, so it's important to learn how to quiet your mind. It's been clinically proven that regular exercise can be as effective for treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants, so go for a walk or a run and leave the mutt behind. Keep a mood journal. Getting your thoughts on paper can be cathartic and often insightful. Also keep track of the things that you have to be grateful for. The most important thing to remember is that no matter how bad it gets, if you take the right steps, talk to the right people, black dog days can and will pass. I wouldn't say that I'm grateful for the black dog, but he's been an incredible teacher. He forced me to reevaluate and simplify my life. I learnt that rather than running away from my problems, it's better to embrace them. The black dog may always be part of my life, but he'll never be the beast that he was. We have an understanding. I've learned through knowledge, patience, discipline and humour, the worst black dog can be made to heal. If you're in difficulty, never be afraid to ask for help. There is absolutely no shame in doing so. The only shame is missing out on life.
So we're back with Sbusiso Manqa. Sbusiso, that was quite a striking little video. I think it's had more than 10 million views already. It's been around for a few years. In how so far can you relate to the message of that video?
It's very true. You know, more than anything, this is what I would like to take from the video, that, you know, our biggest enemy is our own thoughts. Our own thoughts are our biggest enemy. I'll tell you why there's Natinus, because we have three things in life. This is how life is like. It's the past, it's now, and it's the future. And everything is happening right now. This is where we are. We are living in the now. The future is only a prediction of what things can happen. You are planning this. In the future, it does not happen. It might happen, it might not happen. That's what you are planning. It's all in the mind. It's your prediction of what might happen. And the past is everything that has happened. And when you think of the past and the future, what happens is that you just raise your emotions more and more. You become anxious. That's where anxiousness is born. Thinking too much about the future and the past. You may be in a bad situation currently, holistically, but when you are in your room, you are opening the window, there's a breeze coming in, you're listening to your favorite songs. It's happening right now. Indulge in that moment. Calm down. Because when you think about the future, you're going to stress. You think about the past, you're going to cry.
Right. And you mentioned the important part there, like music or whatever brings you down to a level of calm. But music, more often than not, is that thing. You know, music is that soothes the beast, almost, if I can use that metaphor, right?
You know what also helps, what I found out, especially as a filmmaker? Films do help a lot. It's just that we tend to watch the whole film and we get bored in the middle. Download, purchase, or however it is you get your favorite films. Take them, watch them, and just skip to your favorite parts. You know the lines. You know the lines already. And just recite them with whoever, and especially like comical films. Just say the lines along with the actors. It's the same thing you do with music. Because sometimes music doesn't help all the time because your mind is distracted by what the eyes see. So sometimes it's all about distracting the mind. That's the quickest way to get out of mental anxiety. Distract the mind. If you distract it through sound, which is music, you listen to your favorite tunes. If they're failing, distract it through sight. Go watch your favorite movies, your favorite TV series, the ones that you've recorded. Just go to your favorite parts. Once you start to enjoy them, you've distracted the mind. You can distract it through scent, through smell.
Yeah, the
Order
senses.
food.
Yes.
Order your favorite food, or cook your favorite food. Immediately you start to smell it, the mind is distracted. So the quickest way to getting out of a mental anxiety problem is through distracting the mind.
Right. Now, it's people don't realize it, but many things are flip sides of the coin. They appear to be poles apart, but they are actually very close, like love and hate, agony, ecstasy, they are very close to each other. The coin flips so easily. And then in getting to our discussion, motivation and depression, because you can be supremely motivated, but then something goes wrong, as you say, something goes wrong with a race or something happens, and then depression can strike. And I think it can strike insidiously without you realizing, and very suddenly, isn't it?
Exactly. You need to also, when you talked about love and hate, it's similar to light and dark. You need to think of yourself as a peach in the tree, that you are ripe. If you sit for too long, you will become rotten and fall down. You understand?
Right.
But if you are picked too early, you are not yet ripe. So what I'm trying to say is that when you are sad, allow yourself to be sad, so that the following day you can pass through the emotions. The following day, if you have a bad day, you say, today was a bad day. That's it. But I'm accepting it. Today was a bad day. You go sleep. In the morning when you wake up, yesterday is yesterday. Forget about it. You lost yesterday. Things didn't go your way yesterday. And that is it. Accept the emotions as they come. When you are angry, allow yourself to be angry. When you're disappointed, allow yourself to be disappointed. And when you are happy, be happy, and don't think about problems that are gonna make you not happy. Allow the emotions that are taking place. If the situation calls for this, be within the situation at the time.
Right. Now, a very important thing that people sometimes overlook is, you can be successful and still be depressed. You can be among friends and still be lonely. The mind is a very strange thing. And I think it's important, as you said, to get in tune with who you are and what makes you tick in a manner of speaking, right?
Yeah, you need to, another thing about success, the misconceptions we have about success, you need to understand that success on many occasions is based on individual brilliance. You understand? You have a mind, you were born, you have a talent to be an entrepreneur, to be successful in business. You have this talent of being the best racer. You understand? So automatically it's gonna lead to success, but it does not mean that your mind is at peace. It just means that you are excelling in what you are naturally gifted at. We have many people that who lived in depression and yet were successful. Presidents, artists. Just Google people who lived in depression, or celebrities who have depression. You find out, like, a brilliant actor like Robin Williams, who gave us many films. He was in depression, but he killed himself. It was what he was talented at. What he was talented at gave him success. Not that he was gunning for success. It was something that he did naturally, effortlessly. There's certain things that you do effortlessly that bring you success, but nonetheless, that does not mean that mentally or health-wise you are well. And that is what you need to take care of. You know how to walk, but it does not mean your feet are healthy. It does not mean your body is healthy. So there are certain things that you can do, but does not mean that you are healthy. So you need to take efforts and deliberately say to yourself that I want to be better. And if you do not say that, there can be 10,000 people next to you saying, I support you. But if you don't say to yourself, I want to be better, you will never be better.
Exactly. Yeah. You very often, as you've said now on a few occasions, very often the worst enemy is the man in the mirror or the girl in the mirror. Now, most of our riders in our group are it's a youth group, so the riders are young. So I would imagine it's also incumbent on the parents and the trainers to look out for signs that things might not be 100% in order, right?
Exactly. For people who are older, and if they're not sure what's happening with a younger person, they need to look at habits. Habits are the most highest point, or the highest point in which you can detect somebody with depression. Somebody used to enjoy certain things, but they don't anymore. You must ask yourself why. And ask them as well, why? You used to like going to the park. You don't like to. Why? You used to want to tell me all the time, you want to meet up with this person or meet up with this certain group. You don't want to meet up with them. Why? It's all about that why factor. Like you parents or guardians need to look at such things, that this person, child, girl, boy, used to enjoy certain things. Why are they not enjoying them? Why are they not talking the same way? It's like we take females, older women can realize when a younger woman is going into periods. Because why? They become moody. And then they can ask them, what is wrong with you? Because they can see their attitude has changed. They need to, trainers, parents, guardians need to apply the same tactic. I mean, as an older male, you can see when a younger boy is getting into puberty and starts becoming attracted to females or whatever partner it is they prefer, and they have certain emotions and they become moody, or they're in a relationship. It's a young relationship. They're starting to become boyfriends and girlfriends, and sometimes they're disappointed. And you study behavior. It's all about the person that you care for. You study the behavioral patterns, because if you do not do that, you will not notice it. Because when they will be outside of the house and tell themselves that, okay, I'm about to get into the house now. I need to get in character so that they do not notice me.
Right. So exactly, so you look for behavioral changes in habits, and so on and so forth. Now, in racing, the challenges are many. The challenges, and we work with racers in our group. We welcome and we respect racers of absolutely all levels. From beginners to world champions. We literally have racers of all levels and a great variety of ages, mostly juniors in the group. But the pressures to be on the racetrack are many. There are financial pressures to perform, injuries. There are many, and as I say, I've sometimes seen parents exert tremendous and maybe completely unrealistic pressures on the little ones. So there's a lot for a young mind to deal with, and to cope with. Moreover, peer pressure, of, as you said, you're not good enough, or you made some mistakes, and but in any case, and what would your advice be, speaking to the racers themselves, that find them in this situation? What would you advise them as simple steps to ensure just that internal peace of mind?
You need to understand also, nobody knows your parents' background as much as you. Nobody knows your trainer's background as much as you, your guardian's background as much as you. Nobody knows your pressures as much as you. And you've got to set goals for yourself. And you've got to always appreciate where you are and be very a fourth welcoming of where you are. You look at yourself, you say, this is what I've achieved. This is where I am. And, this is where my mother, my father, my trainer, my guardian has pushed me to be here.
Right.
And that I really do appreciate. But as soon as I'm next to other races, everything falls. Everything else falls. Whether it's life also is also about being realistic. We cannot
exactly, and self-acceptance, very much so. Yes,
self-acceptance. You know your background. You know your background. Right. You know how you feel. You know what are your fears. And as soon as you next to other races, that's it. Everybody else who's helped you falls into the crowd. They are just watching. And you need to forget about them. You need to focus on yourself, because the slightest of distractions is not going to disappoint them, but it's going to disappoint you, because the racetrack doesn't know your struggles. It only knows your wheels and your motorbike. And your
very clever. Yes, very, very perceptive. All right, Sbusiso, now as we spin out, it's been a delightful interview. You mentioned you're a filmmaker or film producer. What kind of projects do you work with?
Mostly, I've been working on the community that I'm from. I work with the scripts that I write. It's everything of mine is very linear. It's very planned. So I'm working with more of mental stuff in terms of developing character. In South Africa, I've worked on a number of projects where I've written scripts that are about self-help. But currently, right now, I'm more into literature, because it has taken me into a broader audience. But that's where my filmmaking springs from me writing, and then it grew into filmmaking. Like my books right now are on Amazon, on Google Books worldwide. So that's where I concentrate on, like, how do we become better as ourselves? I'm not saying this is how you're gonna become better. I'm saying these are the methods, in you finding ways for yourself, methods for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the things that you accept, or the formulas that you apply for yourself, or you come up with for yourself. There's certain trainers, especially as racists, that will tell you, do this way, do this way. And whereas you can perfect it in a different way. Deal with this, even in the workplace as adults. We know that there are people that will tell you that if you do this or execute this in a certain way, it will be better. Whereas it's very bad for you, and it takes a lot of pressure from you. But if you do it your way, things will become better. Like I always say, that truth is in perception. The way you see things is the way that they will be.
All right. And now, Sbusiso, where do people find your books and your works? You've also done some works of poetry and everything, but where can people most easily find your books?
All my books are on Amazon. If they can, you have my name on screen, Sbusiso Manqa. I think because Amazon shows the authors and their works easily. My books are on Amazon. They're on Google Play. And in terms of all of my work, videos, films, and books as well, it's my name, Sbusiso Manqa, one word, they make it one word, .wordpress.com.
Right. Yeah, I actually saw today that you are also, you mentioned on Goodreads. I'm a member of Goodreads. I read voraciously. So I actually ran across your name on Goodreads as well today. So that's very, very interesting. Well, Sbusiso Manqa, I thank you very, very much for a most delightful and informative session. I thank you for joining our Youth Force Racing group. I hope some of the group members will now in turn pop along and see some of your work. And let's keep the lines open, and maybe as this year's racing season is more or less done, only a few races left. So as the next year's season rolls along, maybe let's pick up the threads again, and maybe with reference to particular case studies. That would actually make for a very interesting project, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I want to be not in the racetrack, but on the sideways, and give that motivation as well, because I don't want to lie. I've seen racing only on sports highlights, but now that you've given me things in depth, now they've caught my attention. I was like, geez, I think I like this.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same with Bubezi. He's a Kwaito singer, and we used Bubezi's song for a video for the motocross world champion Tim Geiser. And then a few months ago, I actually invited Bubezi to a race near Kempton Park, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. He had the whale of a time, so we'll be sure to invite you as well, and have you see what's happening there, right?
I would love that, because I'm also a fan of racing, but in my area, it was just like those tuned cars, like NASCAR racing. So
right.
So I'm a fan of the track. So I definitely want to see the MotoGP, like the bikes racing. I love the track.
All right. Okay, Sbusiso, thank you so very much. The video will be online shortly. I will send you also a link for your page so that you can get your viewers to the video and to get them to rewatch the interview. But thank you very much for joining us, and I hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tinas. Can I say something in closing for the riders?
Sure.
The riders need to understand that, guys, you are not mad for thinking of yourself as the best. When the best started, they didn't know that they were best. It starts with one race. All you need to do is win one race. And that's it. You must be the genius that you are. The world will catch up. That split second is what it makes.
Thank you, my friend. And well, that wraps it up for our episode of Velospitty Speech Talk for this evening. Look out for some very interesting interviews coming up from the road racing world, and also some motocross interviews. And if you keep watching the page, we will post some links to that. Thank you for joining us. And with that, it's me, Tinus Nel, and Sbusiso Manqa signing off for the evening.